My friends, another episode of Expressions, another episode of Expressions. I always am so excited about these. Every time I come in, like independent of what's going on, whenever I sit down to do an episode and I hit that record button, it's like an adrenaline thrill that I feel, and I just light up. I literally light up and I'm like, do, do, do. Sometimes I play my theme song also before I do it, and I'm just dancing by myself. So I want to tell you, if you're tapping into this episode, thank you so much. I really deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate you. I love you. I see you. I am you. Today, I say this, honestly, I say this in every episode, but today also is a really special one. You guys know I've been playing with different formats. I talk to you just me. I riff. I do little comedy bits. I do motivational things, and I know that you guys love all of it. And you've heard me also bring very special, unique people onto the pod. So I'm going to introduce you in a second to somebody who is very near and dear to my heart. Before I do, I want to shout out because it's Thursday when I'm live recording this. It's Thursday, February 29th, and in less than a week, in 6 days, we launch The Garden. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit more towards the end of the episode, but it's my first virtual membership community, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It has everything to do with your magic, your femininity, your sensuality, coming home to the truth of you, which is your magic. So if you're looking for, I call it House of Magic. If you're looking for a house, if you're looking for a home, if you're looking for a sisterhood, if you're looking to remember more consistently your magic, play more consistently in your magic, all in a place that is safe and that holds you, DM me on Instagram at the TheZoeOliVia. Let's chat. Let's talk about it. I got GA, I got VIP options. There's so much in the works, and you're gonna hear all about it, but I wanted to put a little of that in there. Oh my goodness. Love that project. Really excited about that project. And if you guys are seeing the visual, my face is lit up like the 4th of July right now. I'm like, ah. And I want this for you. I want this feeling for whoever's listening to this, whatever your work is, whatever your passion is. I want you to feel this because it's so important, that energy of inspiration. And without further ado, I have someone very special here with me today. My dear friend, my soul brother, my tribe. You guys have heard us talk before, and I still continue to get incredible feedback on the conversation that he and I had. We had a couple. We had this incredible one on the pod on masculine feminine where we embodied, right, embodying me as the feminine pole and him as the masculine pole, and we loved it. Him and I. And then we brought it to IG Live, and we brought it to our communities. We brought it to our audience, and we were just seeing like, where is the pulse? And people also loved that. So it's an honor to bring him back on the pod, to have another conversation with him, to tap into his genius and to surrender. Like every part of me is like, woo, to surrender to his leadership. I present to you my beautiful expressions community, the one and the only Mr. Ben Clark. Mr. Ben Clark is back, and I surrender to you, my dear, with wherever this conversation goes.
Thank you, Zoe. I'm stoked to be able to have another conversation like this. I feel like every time we talk, our conversations become really so alive. Like we get into this flow and a really great dynamic, which I think can really empower people. So excited to be back, and it's cool too to watch your excitement just in that intro, right? Like watching your energy and just the passion that you have behind what you're actually doing. And it says a lot about yourself and the work and the energy that you're bringing to people. So hopefully we can tap into a little bit of that energy in this conversation and help others leave this conversation feeling some of that in their own hearts, because it's in there. What comes up immediately as we talk about this idea of us stepping into our dynamic and you being more in that receiving role and me being more in that leader role. I'm immediately brought back to our original conversation and how we had chatted about this dynamic where it was a little uncomfortable at first, like a little uncomfortable for myself to step into this leadership role of like, oh no, what does that mean? Oh, I got to lead now. And yourself, you had shared like it's a little uncomfortable step into that receiving role. So I'm curious, since it's been a few months, stepping into this conversation, how are you feeling as compared to last time?
Ah, I love it. I love it. And right when you said it, it took me right back because I was thinking about the same thing. I remember distinctly that point in the conversation where you shared it, and then I came right back and I was like, me too. I have to give up control, or what my perception of control was at that time. And now I feel excited I feel safe. I feel curious. There's this like tingly mystery of like, where are we going? And also a very um certainty about that I don't care where we're going, because it just
Hmm.
feels so nice to be held in this dynamic. And it speaks a lot to, however you're moving in this and navigating this, the frame that you hold for me, right? Because the feminine, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but the feminine like will pick up, will sniff out if like we don't feel safe and if we have to kick on extra stuff. And it's something I've worked on my entire life of when to fully surrender, when also to be like, oh, okay, there's something going on in this container. So I'm glad that I feel safe here, and I'm excited. And
Mm-hmm.
the mystery tingles. I don't know if I have a word for that, but like the mystery, ooh, mystery of life.
It's funny you use the word mystery, and I'll share why in a second. But I think likewise, I feel very, very similar. A lot more comfortable, a lot more safe within myself, a lot more in my own power. And so I think it's interesting that dynamic of like you're feeling that. And I think it doesn't necessarily have to do fully with me and my power and you being able to receive that. I think it also has to do with just yourself and the growth that as we had that conversation a few months ago, that's in a way not only acknowledging that discomfort, but then leaning into it in that conversation sets an intention into the universe. And then we're continued to experience things that are going to help us step into that power. And here we are just 3 months later, feeling more comfortable in that. So that on top of me being able to step into that a little bit more powerfully, I'm sure also just soothes that energy in you. But the word mystery is really interesting because the way that you just described it, I wrote it down because it just stuck out. Whereas yesterday, me and my friend were talking about this idea of surrendering to life's flow and this getting in our heads and overthinking. And he was like, when you really, really surrender to life, it becomes a mystery. We want to know everything that's going to happen. We want to know how the conversation's going to go, what the questions that we're going to ask are, and how tomorrow's going to go, and how that meeting's going to go, and how our launch is going to go, or where we're going to be living in a year, right? We get all into this. We project ourselves into the unknown space and try to find it and figure out and make it known. But when we surrender, it all becomes a mystery. And like your energy in that association with a mystery is fun and bright and the tingles, right? And it's like, what a different frame to live from when it's like every day we can wake up with this sense of innocence, this sense of, oh my gosh, today's a mystery. What's going to happen? Who's going to come into my life? Is it going to be something incredible or is it going to be something really difficult? And when we can come in with this, like even this conversation of, ooh, I'm excited. Like, what are we going to talk about? Right? It's like that creates more fun and that creates this space for us to start feeling more safe in that. But it's not easy to step to this space where we feel safe in the unknown. Um, and so I think that that's really, really, it's a powerful concept to tap into is how could we treat life like it's this mystery and have a little bit more fun? Is that something that you've been tapping into a lot lately?
100%. And what's coming through me is like the safety comes in our trust of knowing that independent of anything, we're always safe, we're always guided, we're always held, and having that be, which like there's old versions of me that are smiling that I feel like my ancestors are smiling because old versions of me were like, I have to know the answers. There is a threat. I have to double lock my door. Like X, Y, and Z person's gonna come in and kill me. Like I had all these stories, which, you and I know on this conscious path, we create what we believe. So I would create experiences to validate those beliefs to be like, see, like, see
Mm,
how unsafe it is out there. Versus when we actually believe in the truth and we trust in the fact that we're always safe and we lean into that, it's like this, feels like this invisible container, which is kind of like what it is, the masculine, right? Of that that's always holding, that's always bigger, right? And I had a mentor also, reflect to me so beautifully that it's like independent of anything we've lived or done or felt, like the truth, divinity is always bigger than that, is always holding that. So within that, we can play,
mm,
right? And, ways that I've and I love that you asked, like, have you been playing in this lately? Like, absolutely. I'm on my like wizardry. I say that my life is like Harry Potter. It's like how we can feel safe in that is understanding that we are also in the director role, right? So
Mm,
yes, there is a bigger like source holding us, and also within our role, we get to play. Like if I always teach this, like if I'm holding a wand, like I'm actually the wizard of my life. And how do I wield it? By the questions that I ask, by the
mm,
priorities that I have in my day, by my habits. So if I wake up and I'm like, what bullshit is waiting for me today? Like that's creating a very different day of mysteries
mm,
than if I'm like, what magic is gonna come in today? You know, like where is the woo? You know, like what's gonna come in the mail to just light me up, and like getting as specific as I can because we know
mm,
that what we ask, we get answers to. So
mm,
making sure that we really craft and hone in those questions to be like setting ourselves up for the unexpected amazingness of it,
mm,
also simultaneously knowing that we have the capacity to hold ourselves through the moments that do feel through our perception like difficult or scary, or like how am I gonna get through this, like those moments,
mhm,
and then coming back to like, oh, I'm always good, I'm always held, I'm always safe.
mm. And it's a really empowering when we can not only understand that, but really understand that feeling of safety because we are being cradled in the universe. It's like that's sometimes the way that I've envisioned it is like the whole universe. Like imagine it like if we got down to like the ether and we saw the energy just moving through, it's like imagine it like this, like just a bed. And we're just like laying on it, just cradled and just safe, like the whole universe at that, in any moment, anytime you might be feeling the most existential pain, and that's a real experience. That is a part of our human beingness, right? But even in that, you are cradled in infinite safety. And we can understand that it's great, but as we start to bring that into our body, that's when the real transformation begins. Because now you can sit and you can feel triggered in something and then just, and you can wake up now with more of this because it's like being able to wake up and go from this like, oh, what mystery's gonna happen today versus like what mystery's gonna happen. We have to be really comfortable with discomfort. Like we have to be really okay with being able to stay safe in that mystery being the thing you didn't want, being a bill that comes in that's rather than money coming to you, it's actually a really big check that you need to write and pay, right? It's like well, that's an equal mystery to the 10K that's coming in gifted to you from the universe. But how do you respond to that? Well, our body is really what's we're going to watch respond to that one because our mind is going to go. But first, what are we going to feel? My heart's going to drop. My heart's going to start racing. I'm going to tense all up, and then the mind's going to start racing following that. So as we can create safety in our body, and now I get that. Oh, this was the mystery. Wow, thank you. It's a whole different way of interacting with that. And the karma that's going to come from that because of the action we're taking from those feelings, it's going to be much different. And our life is going to transform. So I want to loop back. You said some things in there that sparked some questions in me that I've been asking that I want to ask you. But before we do that, just for people that are listening as well, let's loop back and just cover like super high level. What is the masculine feminine dynamic? What do each one look like? So if you want to go ahead and take the feminine and just share a little bit about what the feminine looks like and what that maybe really healthy feminine looks like and a more of a wounded feminine might look. And then I'll share the masculine.
Absolutely. Ooh, I'm excited that we're diving in. And I'm also excited if you're listening to this independent of where your studies are on this, super important for you to consider that what Ben and I are teaching and speaking on, take it. And I actually just taught this last night, and I taught a class called Magnetic Manifesting, and I brought it up kind of just like this. It's like, learn this first as it applies within yourself, because it's really tempting to be like, oh, I'm the feminine, he's the masculine, and like now it's like me and him, and then you completely neglect, if you're a woman, like the masculine within you, or if you're a man, the feminine within you. And so like I very much intend, as I speak about it, it's like have you take these codes, these transmissions, and understand that what we're about to talk about is an energy principle. Also, shout out to the Light Beings, which is a huge community of mentorship that helped me understand and speak into what I'm about to speak
Mm.
into to define it from these ways, right? And that being that the energetics, it's a principle that's always like dancing together, right? It's never like you're just feminine and you're just masculine. It's always a ratio where one is a little bit more dominant than the other. I personally believe, and the way I conceive it is like we're always operating from one more than the other, and we actually come here in a specific body to play out certain dynamics, right? So the feminine, I'll speak on the feminine now, even though I'll speak as a woman. So if you're listening, I'm a ladies listening to this, you have a masculine too. So when you listen to Ben, think about this also as your masculine. And I guess one last framework I'll say before I bring it into the feminine is understanding that there's a structure that's held through the masculine, and then there's a flow that comes through the feminine. So it's a very much like cohesive dance that they play with each other. So when it comes to the feminine is this energy of receptivity, this energy of softness, right? Down to, if you think of the archetype, the body of the woman is like this energy of being of receiving. And when
Mm.
I say receiving, the way I perceive it is like think sensually through your senses, through your sight, through taste, like how you experience life through your senses, through your body. This receptive force, this magnetic force, if the masculine is electric and the feminine is magnetic, and that makes electromagnetism and that creates a field, the feminine is that magnetic pull,
Mm.
that pull in. If you ladies, if you ever feel like you're in your radiance and you're just like, wow, things are just magnetized to me, it's a very different energy when you're just kind of leaning back. And we can talk later on, because I get a lot of questions from women. Actually, this is very relevant because I get a lot of questions from women like, okay, I want to be in my feminine, so that means I just like lay back and don't do anything and just it all comes to me. And I'm like, well, like your masculine is there for a reason as well, because there are actions you have to take. It's just I operate from the philosophy that's like, if you're here in a women's embodiment and you identify as feminine led, you're here to experience this dimension, this lifetime, as the receptive force of everything. And I also see the feminine as like this oracular wisdom where we are able to tap into the field. And men, you also have a feminine, right? But like we're able to really feel and pick up on things to speak to the kind of how I was talking about at the top of this call, speak to how solid our container is. So when I was like, I am excited to talk to you, Ben, because I feel like this is a solid container. I feel safe here. Whereas my feminine, if I didn't, would start to be like we sniff it, we're like, and you can practice that within yourself, and I do, where it's like, where is my masculine off? And I'll let you take it away when it comes to the masculine, but it's like, where am I, not structured or dedicated in my own time, in my own life? Where am I still like looking for a savior or something like that, knowing that I am that structure within myself first? So really
Mm.
important, before I pass it over to Ben, really important that you understand within the concept of masculine and feminine, take this study first within your own life before you bring it out into like your partners or people of different genders. Really nail in what it means within you.
Mm, so beautiful and so important because we all do have a very unique dynamic. And I think, especially like as a woman or as a man, it's easy to say, oh, feminine energy, that's where I need to give everything into, or masculine energy, right? I'm a man, so it's all the masculine. It's like, no, right? We do have a very unique balance, and we are here to really play out that authentic balance. And so something that's been coming up for me recently too is this idea of feminine and masculine energy. It's like, let me get into my masculine, let me get into my feminine. But when I say let me get into my masculine, what that really means is not focus only on the masculine. That my masculine, right, with quotes for those who are just listening on audio, is like that it includes the feminine, right? And so it's like for me to step into my masculine actually is completely intertwined with the feminine. So by also embodying that feminine, I'm embodying the masculine, and then likewise, as I embody the masculine, I'm embodying my feminine in its own way, because it's always interacting, and so you can't just have one without the other. And so it's really important to go inward and actually do the feminine work, in a sense of going inward and feeling in yourself where that is, and then the masculine is kind of the outward now understanding of it. So that's like at its core, as I think about, and I love the way it's like when you're describing the feminine, is think about all of the senses, right? Everything that you're receiving in. It's the feminine is very simple. It's the inward energy, and the masculine is the outward expression of energy. And so it's like the masculine is much more of the logical doer, like bring the will into the world, like set the intention of what we're going to do, speak it, go out and actually take the action. And the feminine is much more of that like unseen realm, which is really where the mystery and the magic happens. And then the masculine takes the mystery and magic and brings it out and creates it into the world. It's and so finding that dynamic within yourself is where you're going to find your magic and your expression of the magic. And that's really why we're here. And that's what the world needs the most. So I think it's really, really beautiful. Now, what do you find on the feminine side when your feminine is wounded? What kind of energies are you might you be experiencing, and what kind of when your feminine is really in more of a healed state, what are you going to be experiencing?
I love it. So from my perception, when I think of the feminine of this wounded state, it's like either this leakiness or this over restrictiveness. I don't know if restricted is necessarily the word I'm looking for, but it's like this leaky, like looking for instant gratification, like looking for validation, seeking because you don't feel your whole fullness within you, over consuming, like kind of looking to get hits of things. I don't like the word drama, but like that kind of way of life that my whole body went like this. Like if you're watching the visual, it's like this kind of like life. Or in the other direction, very restricted, which also resonate. I mean, both of them have resonated with me at different parts of my journey, but this restricted, repressed, where you're like not in the present moment for a majority of reasons. Maybe you're dissociative, maybe you are like not in touch with your sexual energy and you're just like not here. So that into the aligned feminine who knows that she matters, who knows that she's important, who's in touch with the present moment, who's in touch with her greater purpose, her standards, and my hand kind of like goes over my heart, right? She in touch like with her center, in touch with her yes, with her no, clear. So there's almost this, not almost, there's this directness also to the feminine because she's not like woo, like gone with the wind that you might see wherever you are in your studies of this, like on social media, of like the goddess in the forest kind of stuff. Like, I love that. And also, she knows where she's going, like she has it together. And I also like I really do love the goddess in the forest because I think that we do have to come home to like the forest and like your body and nature and everything. It's just really to pair that also with like what's your direction, where are you going, are you taking steps, are you moving in your in your direction, like in your purpose, in your inspiration, while also being tapped into the magic that is you.
Mm, mm, beautiful. And it is interesting because as I hear some of those um like wounded feminine characteristics where it's like you're more like insecure, right? Like at its core, I think about the masculine, and where the masculine is wounded is you're noticing a lot more like power hunger, competition, aggression, like confrontation. Like there's a lot more of this really heightened energy that's more of like making other people feel less than and really trying to uplift yourself. And I think it's interesting because it's like, well, the feminine, this wounded feminine is a lot of insecurity. Well, it's like when I look at aggression or control or like this power hunger, I think about insecurity too. Because I'm like, like if you feel like you need to have this power or need to put someone else down, well, clearly there's some real insecurity inside of you. And so that's just another example of how these dynamics work in tandem and in flow with each other. Is like if I'm in the wounded masculine, well, likely there's some wounded feminine traits in there as well. And like that's really how the masculine's going to show up. And I think we've got a lot of men today where that is how it does show up, right? It shows up as a lot of the just wanting to belittle and put other people down, but it also in the masculine, like, and I guess more in like this is more when we're talking about like in the man, because the wounded feminine is going to show up as well. But there's a lot of that wounded feminine in men as well. And that's part of my journey is I've been really on this, realizing how much like, I mean, I feel like I've known this and I've talked about this in our last conversation with which is as a man, I have a lot of feminine energy. Like that intuitive, receptive surrender flow is a big part of my essence. And so in this journey, I've realized how much wounded feminine energy there's been in myself and this the overthinking and the insecurity and this neediness and the anxiety and all of that. And so it is important, like when we are thinking about these, again, just to reiterate, like as a man, you're going to struggle with a lot of these wounded feminines. And as a woman, you're also going to struggle with a lot of these wounded masculines, right? Where that insecurity then shows up and starts to get into this dominating and this like over dependency, right? It's like, no, I don't need you. And like all that. Whereas then we talk about softening and so I think it's really important to like as you're listening to this, just think about where like what comes up for you and don't get too caught up on these labels, but just notice where are these energies relevant in you. And so then transitioning into the masculine, like the healthier masculine, this is where confidence really comes in. This is where a sense of presence comes in. This is where purpose and clarity and this vision on our mission comes in, where that mission now becomes extremely important and we're very disciplined towards that and we're logical and we're also supportive and we're responsible and we feel I think one of the biggest things that I've recognized as I've really been working on this dynamic within myself is really being able to slow down and just hold space and just because that's like a huge part of when we're in the unhealthy, we're kind of like riding in this discomfort in silence and it's super awkward and we just got to keep talking and we got to keep explaining. But as we really step into our power, especially in leaning into that masculine, it becomes slow. And the power comes from silence and space and just being able to sit here and hold that. Because a lot of people, that is becomes really uncomfortable. The body's like, oh my God, what? Like we got to keep going. And so it's this like beautiful, just really powerful grounded presence in that. Then also you're creating this kind of leading energy, right? Because the masculine's the outward energy. So it's this more of the leading energy that leads the space and is holding that space. And the feminine then kind of gets to sit in that space and really be able to radiate from that. It's like we think about like God the Father, Mother Earth, right? It's like the universe is kind of like the space in which is or God is like this, the masculine principle, and then like think of Earth as the feminine principle, right? The God is holding this space for then the Earth to be able to sit and radiate its beauty and create and just, and so it's like it's the same dynamic as we're working with each other, with these souls and these human bodies interacting. Now, something that came up, and this is kind of transitioning now. So we have a solid basis of what these dynamics look like. Do you feel like there's anything else that we missed in there that's important before we
I love
transition?
that. And I love how tapped in you are because in general I have so much surrender of like wherever you take the combo. And I also was like, oh yeah, like there's one thing that I wanted to say. So I love that you tapped in on that. And it's like from my opinion, that's what makes you so powerful in your masculine, the work that you've done on your feminine, because to be able to hold that frame, even just right now in this conversation where you're present and you're listening, that's your feminine being on, like you're receptive to the moment and then
Mm,
holding me like you're not like on your phone or whatever. So now I feel safe. And it's like this ripple effect, like men, if you're listening to this, or women, if you're listening to this, like the work that men do within healing their own feminine so they can be a clear channel, they can hold a grounded space. And like you have to, I feel like now I'm like inserting an opinion, but it's I feel like you have to because it's on the men to direct where the energy goes. And
mm,
so it's been fascinating for me also in maybe I've shared this with you. I don't know. But like I in the world of salsa dancing, which I got into and like that being a tremendous modality for me to come into my feminine and everything that came up in relation to surrendering and being led and like all the edges of that and like stepping all over myself and like being a little bit too forceful with the man partner and then also having a tremendous respect for the men in that setting because I don't know if you guys have ever seen like salsa dancing, but it happens so fast and there's these micro movements that you have to like lead a woman from such a like boop, and then she all of a sudden she's doing 3 spins. So
mm,
it's beautiful dance of like men having this ability to be so present and on and directed and for us to just trust and be like, oh, this means here. Okay, the energy is going to move here. And you breathe and you feel like so lit up after it. So
Mm.
I'm like, am I low key taking salsa? I mean, yes, it's my medicine, but it's also so that I can I bring so many examples into what I do from salsa because it's cool. It's like the embodiment of it for sure.
Yeah. And in a way, it's like everything is the embodiment of it, right? And so, if we can find these things that really embody certain archetypes really well, then they become great examples and great stories to be able to share so people understand. And then, as we understand, now we can really begin that process of understanding. So, it's beautiful. And I think that that's actually really important in the masculine for me, as I found like stepping into that masculine leadership, is it's so essential to be able to hold that feminine energy within yourself as well and get really in tune with that. And maybe I'm biased because I've just always naturally had a bit of that feminine energy in me, and just growing up with sisters. But like, as I've stepped into this and I've heard this from multiple people, is like because I'm able to now be a lot more present and hold a space. And this is all to be said. I'm not perfect by any means. I got plenty of work to still do, but holding that space and being so in tune with my own feminine energy means that I can also tune into yours and feel you. And as a woman, you're going to feel a lot more safe if you know that the man has some sense of being able to feel into you, because if you feel like super misunderstood, you're not going to really feel safe, right? And so being able to hold that space, and as a man being able to feel into her, because the woman can feel into you, like whether you know it or not, she can feel, like you were saying earlier, sniff it out, right? It's like intuitively, and it's hard to even explain that experience because it's a direct experience for you. So it's hard to explain what that really feels like. It's like you just know. It's like this inner knowing of like something's off, or and we'll get into this a little bit later, but it's like you can just read when a man's in his head, right? You can just see very clearly, oh, he's not in it, or he's lying to me, or he doesn't get what I'm feeling, right? He's off. And so in that, there's going to be then there's resistant force that comes out in the feminine, which is then like put up a wall because this man does not understand what's happening right now and needs to go away. But as that man is able to tap more into it, well, now he can hold that space for you also really calmly within himself, and now you just feel more drawn to it because now you're like, oh, this is actually healing. Um, and so I think just for the men that are listening to this, like that's absolutely essential. And as a woman, too, in the feminine energy, it's important for you to cultivate that masculine energy within yourself as well. Because, like you said, like it's not just about, oh, just totally do nothing and just sit on the couch all day. Like their masculine principles still in the is in every woman. And so being able to bring that out into the world and actually take action on things, but also to understand the man and the masculine energy and where that's coming from and when certain things come out. Because I think it's also important, the masculine is the leading energy, right? But that doesn't mean that the man has to lead that whole dynamic, because every woman has the masculine principle in. So you can lead as well. It doesn't always have to be like, oh yes, like the man take over. Well, no, you could actually just tap into that masculine principle as well and lead in your own life. Just that larger dynamic is if you're always leaning into that, well, now you're going to probably get off balance depending on where that is. Okay. Feel good with that?
Yeah, and the last thing I was gonna say, and I'll let you transition us, is like, ladies, if you're hearing this too, and you hear like, okay, you can lead too. Like now, I guess we are talking relationally. There's ways that you can use feminine communication where you're not necessarily leading, but you are making it known. Like, oh, Ben, I would love for you to lead this conversation. Like, I feel so safe here. So you're still in your feminine. You're not like, here's what's gonna happen, Ben. You're gonna get on at this time, and then now everything in my system and likely his system is like, where it's just like,
Mhm.
versus like, I would love, like, I just love, and even I feel like it's so sexy when a woman is just like, I would love this. Like, I would
Mhm.
just love this. And then the man's like, oh, great, perfect. You're clear, right, on what it is. And now I'm clear on the delivery of that. And then everything is smooth, you know? And then
Mhm.
the another thing that comes through is also like the masculinity. Now I'm talking outside of a relational dynamic and just within yourself, women, and I guess also men too, your masculine holding you. And this is really important before you're in relational dynamics and as you're in them, it's like holding yourself through your own emotional experiences and having the capacity to hold yourself so you don't enter into like control dynamics or whatever it is because you're like, I can't hold me, it's my partner's job, you know? It's my partner's job to like, I'll use quotes now if you're watching the visual or you're not, like, save me or fix me or whatever. And then you come and you just bring all this like emotional weight that you're not holding within yourself. So all of us have to, I heard, I wish I knew who it was to say it to give them credit, but somebody, someone said on a podcast that I listened to, like we each have to be in charge of our side of the street
Hmm.
and really like hold our emotions, hold our direction, and then work in collaboration with each other.
Yeah, because it's easy to throw that to the other side of the street and say, no, you're supposed to lead this, like in a blame. Then we get into victim mode. And in that's a very wounded, I mean, it's a wounded feminine trait. It's also in its own ways a wounded masculine trait. It's like it is important to come back into ourselves and take ownership of our energy that's happening in here, and then be able to clearly communicate that and be able to set boundaries when necessary, right? Because otherwise we step fully into that victim mode, and then we're looking to be saved. We're looking for someone else to come in when it's like, and I think this is really important in just reiterating, you did say this in so many words, is like, is this idea of like stepping into and holding your own power and realizing that everything that you're seeking in this dynamic of a relationship or whatever, it's all in here. Like as a woman, I think it becomes easy too to be like, that safety, the man holds the safety and leads and all of that. Great, important. And that dynamic, like we are the human beings, we're communal creatures, we're supposed to be in relationship. And so that will amplify those. But it's a dangerous game when that relationship or that person becomes like this part of you that holds that safety, because it's like that safety is in you. Like I could be totally out of this conversation and you've got all of the things that like my masculine energy helps you with. It's all within you. I'm really not doing anything. It's all happening as an energetic response in you. You're responding to this energy, but you have the same principles in yourself. And so I think that's really important. And what I'm learning too is really this sense of like, as we come together, and this will be a good transition into the thing that's been on my mind as well, is as we come together as people in relationship, it's like this idea of like you complete me, right? Like, hey, this completes me, or my other half. Like, great, but like also no, not at all, right? And it's so much more powerful of a dynamic when you both come in as very whole beings, very in yourself. Like if you're coming in and you can already hold safe space within yourself, and I'm coming in and I can already hold this intuitive, creative kind of force within myself. Well, now we've come together. Now we're two like independent beings that merge, and that energy really flows rather than one needing something from the other. And it's never like this is like, you know, there's always going to be that dynamic of like, hey, I'm struggling with this and you're going to help with this or whatever. But having this core knowing, which is something that you talked about at the beginning, which is just like you're helping people step into themselves, or step into their wholeness and their completeness with themselves. Like we're empowered in relationships, but we'll never be more empowered when we have really filled up our own cup and we're really feeling whole and complete in ourselves. That's where real empowerment comes in. And so then what comes up is like, is relationships, because I'll just like high level in the last few months. I mean, not only have I been going on this journey myself, but I've also been in a relationship with was seeing someone that she's really tapped into her feminine. And like I've just been like the first meeting, I was just like, oh my gosh. And man, having this sort of conscious relationship in my life where it is two people that have a very similar mission and just communicating, and whatever that relationship looks like, that has been an absolutely incredible catalyst for growth, because it becomes this just incredible mirror as you're taking this consciously, and you see that person as just a mirror back to like where things are off inside. It's like, my gosh, you get to see parts of yourself that are hard to see, and you get like in those this old patterns that just come up and get kind of ripped out, and you got to force those, especially when you are also in that masculine feminine dynamic. That feminine energy is going to bring out your shit, right? Because that feminine, like I found more and more, it's like the masculine is, it's that leading energy. But man, when you have someone tapped into their feminine energy, they will see through you like no other person can see through you. And it's extremely like it in my experience has been scary. Like there's been fear, right? Of that, like, oh my gosh, right? But it's been incredibly empowering, like beyond words empowering. So I'm curious just to hear a little bit about like conscious relationship in your life, and this is friendships, family, this is colleagues, like whatever it is. Um, but like, have you experienced that in your life with intentionally kind of setting that precedence with people?
Yeah. And I'm curious what you mean on setting precedents, because I want to accurately answer your question.
Yeah, so really just like being very intentional in some sort of, whether it's a friendship or a business partnership or a romantic relationship, like intentionally setting this like, hey, like I want this to be a conscious relationship where we are growing with each other and being mirrors back to each other. Have you ever had that experience?
Yes. And what's coming through first is to share all of the times. I'm 31 right now at the time of this recording, and all of the times I didn't have it, right? So all of the times that I didn't have it and I put myself into, and I chose to, based on the awareness that I was in at that time, enter into and sustain dynamics with people who weren't at the same level of taking responsibility, and I wasn't either. I was very much in my wounded feminine and masculine, all of the wounds. It was just like you, that was me. Now I'm speaking like dating relationships, like romantic relationships, and the way that I showed up from studying and deeply embodying this path now, the conscious path, the way that it has changed and where I first started to see it come to be reflected, the shift was in friendships.
Mm.
Because that same pattern that I just described about like romantic relationships, I was also playing that out in the friendships that I had. And I would get on the phone. How many of us ladies, right, in the beginning, wherever you are in your journey with this, you pick up the phone, and you're like, gossiping with your girl or whatever comes out, and he and she and the boss and da, and you're in that passenger seat language of like, you're just not ever taking responsibility. And then you have somebody else who's doing that, and you're just feeding on each other's embodiment of that. So what started to happen, the more that I applied myself to this work naturally, as is the nature of how energy is designed, when my resonance changed, those people there's a moment where they just kind of look at you and they're just kind of like, you
Mm.
know, I didn't really have an experience necessarily that was like combative and someone's like, you changed. Like it was nothing like that. It's just naturally that energy is so strong, the energy of truth. It's like, you're going to be seen, yes or yes. I almost started speaking in Spanish. You're going to be seen. You are going to be seen. And for a lot of people, that's a lot. So people naturally, they're either called forward into that or they move away into their life. So that's kind of where it started to happen. And in that space, where with that space, I was really just being by myself and my own best friend and my own lover and all of that. I've attracted the most incredible first, like friends and family, and even my own like biological family who's also applying to doing the work. And the way that now we show up into relationships, like I had where in the past older version of Zoe that I was just talking about, like she would get into a fight or have feel a charge, which I know now, feel a charge in relation to a person and
Mm.
bring it to the table or not, right? Either hide it, sweep it under the rug, or bring it to the table. And now me and her or whoever are like head to head. Now this happened within the past week. A charge came up within one of my best friends, is like my sister, for both of us in relation to each other. And the way that we showed up was like we both came to the table. It was this be so, I feel like all of our ancestors from every time were just like, oh, like shining light on us, because the way we both were like, here's all my shit, and then she was like, here's all my shit. And then when you did this, that shit of me came through to reflect that within me. And so I own all of this. And then everywhere in there, like we're just like, how can we connect deeper to each other? And then I'm like, I'm owning this. And then I make a request because I had pain about this. And so there's this like, you can feel how both of our systems start to soften. And we're both
Mm.
so much more authentic because we're showing ourselves like it's actually really safe to say all the things that we didn't want to say, right,
Mm.
about each other. Or she had things in relation to seeing me being successful or whatever came up, and like it wasn't like a like I'm jealous of you kind of a thing. And then I had things in relation to her and us just being like, cool, like that's just your stuff. It's not like true, it's not like
Mm-hmm.
I'm living a life you'll never live. You're living a life I'll never live. Like we're mirrors, we're sisters, we're the same. So how can we remember that? And then how can we hold ourselves to remember that? And we went from like this charged conversation in the beginning to us like now we're just like silly and it's been beautiful to have this conscious space. And she's been in so many ways such a mirror for that for me. And for us to, and I'm speaking like as women, to hold that frame for each other, to be like, if something's coming up in relation to you, let's go there. Let's lean in there. Every part of me, and now I'll speak also again on my patterns, like every part of me in the past was an escaper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm out. Like I'm like, I don't want to think, I don't want to feel this, I don't want to think about this. And like now to be the person I'm like, I'm in. If I feel the itch that I want to get out, okay, how can I be in?
Mm-hmm.
Can I be in? How can I be in with you? How can I support you? How can I be honest about my experience where even when I was navigating with her, I did feel a little bit of like dissociation or stuff and just presencing that, hey, I'm hitting a threshold right now for my presence with you. I just want to voice that, right? I'm hitting a threat. This is a lot for me. You want me to take a second, come back? Like, how are we gonna do this? And then her just being, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
conscious relationships, and I'll also let you go on whatever comes through you. My friends is where it's at. It is where it's
Mm-hmm.
at. It's so it's beautiful, especially like we said, like when both parties take responsibility for their side of the street with the, now I guess we'll go masculine, with the goal of connection, of coming back together. Like going into this container every time that when I was navigating that with my friend, my sister, every time we engaged with each other, you could feel it, you could see it. It's like we're here to bring ourselves closer together, even though right now our bodies, our wounds are
Mm-hmm.
like, you ever seen that image from Burning Man where it's like two things facing away, but the inner child's like want to connect? Like we feel we're like, oh, everything's on and we're still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. And knowing that outcome, and I'm sure you are living this tremendously in your life with the masculine, it's like guiding us back to where are we going?
Mm-hmm.
To family, to connection, to togetherness. Or if the person doesn't take responsibility for their side of the street, to not that, right? To us, going on our own paths and for that being okay. Because we uphold our standards here in this conversation is this is magic. Like this is what Ben and I are doing. This is freaking this is the codes. Like I want to shout this from the rooftop. This is where it's at. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So powerful. I mean, like I probably already said it, but I'm gonna second it. The conscious relationships has been the single greatest catalyst for growth. And I think what's important is what you had shared, which is like the first conscious relationship is here with the self, right? The first conscious relationship, it begins with yourself. I was never in like these conscious relationships, whether it was with friends, whether it was with business partners or romantic partners a few years back, because I wasn't in this conscious relationship with myself. So I couldn't have been with someone else. I didn't even know what that experience was like. And I think this is one of the most important things that a lot of people come to me, a lot of men that I talk to, it's like they want a girlfriend, right? And they're seeking it and they're wanting it, and this is gonna be so good. And I've been there plenty of times, but it's like, okay, great. Well, why? Right? Oh, it's because it's gonna complete me. It's gonna feel good. It's gonna help me do this and this and this. Great. Okay, let's work on finding that within yourself first, because especially in that dynamic in your masculine energy, if you are needing that person to complete you, well, then that person's gonna feel that. And if especially if this woman is conscious and tapped into her energies, well, she's gonna feel that really deeply and be repelled by that. And it's been so interesting because the like being in some sort of romantic relationship has pulled the deepest parts of young Ben right to the surface. Right there. I mean, just all up so fast. And it was interesting because kind of in the beginning, it was like I felt like a little bit um would feel almost not attacked, but like rejected, right? Something would come up because the feminine dynamic is very much right here and always feeling, right? The masculine is typically more in the head, like logically trying to understand what's happening, and is much more like kind of rational in a sense. And the feminine is much more of just what is felt in this moment and then expressed from that feeling. And so when you're in a dynamic, I think it's easy as men to watch like the feminine kind of shift into like it's all great, and then suddenly it's just like not. And it's like, as a man, you feel like pulled away, or at least I felt like that's being the feminine is pulling away. And so then old Ben comes out right to the surface and is like, no, come back. Right. And like is like needy rather than just recognizing, hey, there's a shift in the feminine energy, likely because there's some sort of shift also happening here or seen or whatever. And rather than then becoming this like needy version, it's actually about just saying, okay, and holding a really safe space for the feminine energy in whatever's being felt so that that feeling can really be transmuted and passed, so then we're coming back to center. So it's the masculine is really here to really hold this grounded space in the present, because the feminine is flowing with the emotions. And if they have this steady point for you within you to come back to, in a sense, it also helps train that feminine to be able to come back and hold that within themselves. But what I've noticed is like the same things, and I'm just becoming so hyper aware of this, because it's like that version gets triggered, this neediness comes out, and then this like avoidance. So like wanting, okay, hey, you know what? I don't even want to talk about this right now. Done. And then like she's so tapped in, she's like, nope, you're not getting away that easy, and is actually holding me accountable for my masculine energy. Like is seeing through and is like, nope, you realize that you're just talking from fear and doubt. That's like that's not you. That wasn't your heart. Like you're, and then I'm like, oh shit, like oh my, I am. And then it forces me, because it's like she's almost holding some of that space for me to come back and empower me to step into that, so then I can help her kind of step into that. And so it's just this incredible dynamic, and it's taken a lot of hyper awareness, and it takes a lot of that ability to feel your nervous system heighten up. That charge, I think, is kind of what you mean, like this just all of a sudden the nervous system goes and the heart's racing or whatever it is, and these thoughts start racing, and be able to feel all of that and say, okay, how are we going to stay in this and just have a conversation in that discomfort, and be able to express honestly what you're feeling, be safe in expressing that, be safe in being held in that. And now, because it's like we all want it to be rainbows and butterflies all the time, but that's just not how it's going to be. There's going to be these discomfort or uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable conversations. The mystery of life will throw at you sometimes shit that you were not expecting. That's hard. But it's like if we can just like rise above all that and just watch it really calmly, we can work through that stuff. And that's what building now that relationship gets stronger, that dynamic gets that bond, that magnetic bond is tighter and tighter, because you're able to sit in everything now together, and help each other sit in that. And it's something that I found, just that dynamic, the conscious relationship with yourself is just not a strong enough mirror. But you need to get there. You get there in yourself. And then once you have that mirror in front of you, and you have a person that's going to hold you accountable for your strength. It's like, oh shit, now you're really seen. Now you really have to step in. And, but I think in all of that, it does begin with like going inward on yourself, because now you can attract that into your life, and you take that conscious co-creation leadership within yourself, and work on that within you, so now you can become that magnet for that thing, rather than I'm gonna that conscious relationship, like I want that person to come and help me step into that. Like, no, taking responsibility. Is there anything that comes up for you as I share that?
I love this question that you asked. It's like one of my favorites when you're like, anything that you have over there?" I love that. And it's this, even as I listen to you, it's this concept of authentic communication. And I follow this man. I haven't worked with him directly. I do feel called to at some point. His name is James Fish Gill. And the
Mm,
way he talks about conscious relationships and how he sees us as these, like if we're in partnership right now, every heart has very real desires and very real pain. And so when
mm,
we get in these moments of heightened charge, and we're like in our story, or we're in our young version of ourselves, and we're just like operating out of there, we're pulsating in that identity. It's like, how can we get clear and remember that you or us, I, have a very real pain and a very real desire, and so does the other person. And how can we bring ourselves to the conversation like, what's your pain? What's your desire? What's my pain? What's my desire? And how can we collaborate and make it like a collaboration? And like you said, keep showing up, keep staying in it. And that's my thing for sure is stay in it. Stay in it.
Mm,
Oh, I felt it when you said that. I'm like, oh yes,
mm,
absolutely.
mm.
Yeah.
Because when we're in that uncomfortable place, like it's just natural to want to run, right? It's like that the ego mind, like this part of us, it's a survival mechanism. You're uncomfortable, well, then there's likely some sort of threat, right? And in evolutionary speaking, it's a lion or something that's gonna probably kill you. And so this part of us is like, run, get away, hide. But it's like, dude, this is just a like for example, hey, this is just a woman calling you out. Like you're not gonna die, right? But that little part of you just wants to run. At least that's the feeling I've noticed, at least in myself on my journey. For those listening, take what resonates from this, look inward and see, okay, yeah, I feel that, or I don't feel that. Like you're not gonna feel all the same things that I'm experiencing. But really being able, and what does that come down to? To me, also just the breath. You take like the most practical thing that I could bring into my life for this, like for anything. Okay, I want to work on my feminine energy. What do I do? I want to work on my masculine energy. What do I do? Breathe. Like literally just come back to the present moment. Breathe first, because as we're breathing deep, slow, powerful breath literally tells your body we're calm, we're safe. And now that's the masculine principle. And in that safety, the feminine principle gets to work through. And so it's like, out of anything, I want to do this. What can I do? What action can I take here? All of this. It's like, we can make it so simple for you. Focus on your breath. If you could approach every day, like every single minute that you were tapped into your breath and noticed it and were deep, or every hour you came back to your breath, I guarantee you your life will begin to transform in a week, in a few days of that conscious presence, and shit's gonna come up though. Um, Something that I want to cover kind of just before we wrap, which is it has to do with manifesting, okay? Because this has been something that I've been really present or conscious of in my own life lately, which is because I've been working on both the masculine dynamic and the feminine, really surrendering and allowing, and it wants to come through right now. I don't know if this is entirely, I don't know if it's going to steer us in another direction, but it wants to come through, which is this idea of surrendering and tapping into this idea that like I as a man, like it's tapping into that masculine energy, I can surrender and let my higher self, let God, let the universe, let source energy be a masculine principle that leads me. Because it's like when I say me, like what does me mean, right? Ben, this character I'm playing, this body that's done in a masculine feminine dynamic. Like if we were to zoom out on life, it's so much bigger than that. Like how can I just simply, as a man, rather than focus on all this masculine energy and like, how can I lead and what do I want in directing my life? It's like, how can I actually just completely let go and let this greater masculine dynamic, let the God, right, the universe be the masculine dynamic that works through me. And so I kind of take my hands off and I just focus on presence and I let the universe be the guiding force in my life. And I just kind of flow with that. And the opportunities that come in, I'm ready to take action on and move forward with. But like not needing to force anything anymore, just letting the greatest power that is, the only power, the one power that is in the universe be the masculine leading principle. And how can I, even as a man, step into that feminine surrender to this greater power, right? Because it's like even as a man, we're I'm not even a man. Like I'm something completely beyond that, right? A soul, just consciousness itself. So that's been something that I've been really thinking about lately. Now, I think that also ties into then this question that I have, which is this dynamic of surrendering and manifesting, and this idea that we're co-creating, right? And that it's like, because part of me is like, okay, cool, just surrender to life. Just step back and let life's flow bring you. And God brings you this person, take action on it. God brings you this opportunity, take action on it. And I just sit back and I just watch the mystery of life unfold. I don't need to set goals. I don't need to set what I want to happen because what I want is ultimately an illusion. There's a greater cosmic force that's happening that quote unquote wants something for me that maybe is the way Michael Singer puts it is like, I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but it's like, what if the universe had so much more to offer than what you thought you wanted from it? So, for example, if I'm sitting here trying to manifest, say, 5 million by 30, it's like, okay, now if I focused all my energy on this 5 million, right, and I'm tapping in and I'm manifesting it and I'm doing the actions, well, what if God's plan for me was actually 50 mil by 30? But I was so focused on this 5 mil because I wanted that, that I completely put aside this massive cosmic opportunity that could have been placed to me. So I'm curious, in the space of manifestation, what comes up for you as I share this? Because I've been toying with this. Like, do I even set goals anymore? Like, do I even try to co-create and say what I want? Or do I let all that go?
I love it. I love it. And it's both.
Mm,
And this is what's so cool because it's both, right? And whenever I'm consciously manifesting something, it'll sound a little bit like this. It'll be like, okay, this is what I'm going to tap in. Like, let's say it's an action item or a goal, or I'm going to be in this salsa competition, or this is where I'm going to go. This is the goal. And I'm open to unexpected guidance along the way and more mystery, right? So it's saving that space where it's like, here's the direction. And I'll talk about this a little bit in the realm of prayer, because as I was coming back into prayer in my life, I have a whole story about my relationship with prayer. I didn't pray, I had like an atheist moment, and then I like came back into prayer, and the prayers that I was saying were these like disempowered, like save me prayers of like, just show me the way, like show me the signs, like what am I supposed to do? I don't get it. And like I'm on my knees like this, and like my eyes are closed, and God just drive, you know. And then there's this new empowered prayer that's like, hey, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for money. I'm ready for my partner. I'm ready for this. Da, 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 da. Show me evidence of that. Show me evidence of my magic. Show me evidence of insert thing that you're manifesting, right? Show me that I already have it. This is what I want. This is the next step. And I'm open to bigger guidance as I'm moving towards achieving that, because I'm ready to achieve it in its full completion as it comes through. You know, and kind of how I teach it is like a staircase. If you imagine the staircase that's going up, and we're like thinking about the top step, but it's like, just think about the next step, because likely the wisdom is in the next step, right? Versus the top. Like even me salsa dancing, it was like, just answer the call of salsa, thinking that it was gonna get, my mind was like, oh, this is what I'm gonna get out of it. And actually it was a whole other thing. So it's like moving with that next step and working. I like the word in communion. You know, sometimes I dance with religious words, and I like the word communion because it's this marriage of you with the divinity of you, right? And being like in honor and deference of it, knowing that it's vast and it's beyond us. And we're just like, whoa, holy shit, you know? And also, I'm ready for this because I recognize that I'm going to take action and have direction in my life. And I'm not going to get in the car and be like, expect it's gonna, you know, we have Teslas now. God knows what we're gonna have in a couple of years. But it's like, this is where I'm headed now. And I'm open to what you're showing me along the way about why that is my next step, because there must be some yummy nugget in there for me. Oh, I get here. Okay, now we're gonna go here. So it's a communion. And
mm,
I know that my life changed, and even my embodiment and my feeling state, my confidence have changed when I show up to my prayers. I show up to my dance with divinity from this energy of like, I'm empowered, you know, like I am like, when it comes to, and even before I lead a class or I started us with a prayer, like it's like that's actually a perfect example. Before I like go into a container, it's like a surrender. It's like, this is your class. And then also when I get on the class, like I have my notes and here's where we're gonna go. And then, oh, maybe I'll be in the class and I'll get a hit of like, talk about this, you know. And
mm,
then someone like Magical Ben is like, what, do you have anything else to add? And I'm like, why, yes, I do, you know. And so it's a dance. It's a
mm,
dance of first order of business, like being in this devotion and this like deference and deep respect to that power. And that power that we're talking about isn't like up there. It's also in the
mhm,
person that you can't stand. Like it's also in this glass of water, like that reverence, that deference. And then from there, having that masculine decisive, like here's the direction for this next chapter of my life. Maybe we're still, the whole book is like, we don't get to know the ending. I feel like right now it's like, this is the next chapter that we're working on. This is the next chapter. Here's the tools. And if these are all the tools that I have here, God, thank you for all these tools. I'm so grateful. I'm open to all the other tools. Maybe there's a wrench you want to throw me. Maybe that, ooh, a wrench came. What does this mean? Right. And it's like that kind of a process. And that makes your manifestation smoother because you don't feel the same attachment energy of like, where's the 50 mil? It didn't show up. You'll see like that's just information on like, am I in an embodiment to receive 50 mil?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do I have to calibrate here? You know, so it's a whole facet, and it's like this concept, and I'll send it over to you to close us and complete us. It's just like it's this dance of surrender and trust where I love, maybe it was Wayne Dyer, so I keep saying somebody said the both and concept, where these concepts that are seemingly oppositional, like, listen, is it God or is it me? Is it multiverse? Is this who's running this thing, right? Yes, the answer is like yes. The answer is all of it at once, at one time. And once we can wrap our brain around that, that's quantum physics. It's like it's my face lights up. So I'm like, this is it. This is the juice. And this is to kind of, I guess, complete us from my end. It's like this is what I talk about when I say it's the magic of us. Right? This is what time traveling is. This is what quantum physics is. It's all of it and none of it at the same time. It's everything. And your mind that wants it to be linear and that wants it to be clean and make sense, like that part of you has to take the back seat when you step into this walk of life because it's so much bigger and more abundant and more like the scene in Inception where the like cafe goes upside down than you could ever expect. And if you're listening to this, or even if you're not, you're built for it. That's why we're here, so that we can play into the magic of it. We can create consciously. We can, like Ben said in relationships, take responsibility, for the wounding that comes up and then show up as a better partner and do that next level of soul liberation that we do through another. And how beautiful is that? And then him holding space for how many people does he hold space for, right? Showing up as that. Like that's what we're here to do because we ripple. Like everything has an impact. So all the work that we're doing goes to everyone that we encounter. Yeah.
So what I am hearing and what's coming up for me as I process that is this reminder that like of the empowered co-creation, right? Because I'm thinking to myself, like when you're talking about prayer, I used to come at it from such an unempowered place, like why, like or help me do this, whatever. And I've been there, and it is interesting because we're placing power into to that power, right? I'm talking like, hey, like God, why? What can I do? Help me with this. It's like we're saying it's that power, right? Even the glass, like that power, or in other people around you, it's that power. But I think it's even that concept of that power. It's like that we're creating separation, right? And it's this reminder of actually there's only one power, right? So we sit and we're sitting and we're talking to God or whatever it is, the way we experience it, as if we're here and there's a separate power that's going to help us. And that is an important distinction. There is no separate power. There's one power. Looks like something that wants to come through.
Yeah. And it is us. I taught this last night on magnetic manifesting. I had this beautiful moment with these 6 or 7 women that were there joining me, where I looked them dead in the eye and I was like, you are the fucking magic. Like the God that we keep putting outside here is actually the material that is us. Like it, and I had a moment also on my IG reel and I cried when I realized it because I'm like, everything that we're like asking for is right here. It's supporting us, it's holding us, it is us. And even I lovingly invite forward clients or people who are like, oh, the God is within you. It is you.
Mhm.
It is you.
Mm.
So in the most humble way, because it's you and it's me and it's my water glass. And it's like I said, it's the person that you can't stand. And it's the person that you just rolled your eyes at. Like it's the same thing. It's all of us. So allowing that to be something that's really sacred and the magic of you as you do this work. I taught it yesterday as like this parallel journey between my hands always go like this when I talk about the parallel journey between remembering your magic, like knowing your magic, remembering your magic constantly and living in your magic, which is my right hand. And then the left hand is meeting the beautiful versions of you that come up along the way that have something to say about that, that are like,
Mm.
magic sounds like a heavy wand that you're wielding there, you know, or whatever they have to say, lovingly meeting them as you continue forward in the direction of, well, here we are, bigger
Mhm.
room, bigger stage, next goals, more money, let's go. And then everything inside you say, ah, okay, I see you. We're still gonna do it though, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it's incredibly so what comes up? Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Okay. Because one comes up that I think is gonna be relevant to a lot of people, which and it also will be helpful for me. Um, so what comes up is this idea of like, okay, realizing that we are the co-creator, realizing that we actually are that one power. Like there's no separation between those two, and that like when we're sitting like, God help me with this, it's actually like take that inward and realize that you like the person that you're asking to help you is actually within you, right? Like you stand in that, and so you get to have this creative power, this power to take control of your life. Well, it's like this balance of surrendering control and also like holding those reins like with God, with the universe. But to me, there's two feelings that come up that I watch within my own energy. One is really empowered, like really like, oh my gosh, that's so sick. Like, okay, I can like I'm actually creating every single moment and manifesting all the time. Like I know that was something that came up in our last conversation that really just hit me and I rolled with for a few weeks was like I am co-creating. So whatever I don't have is all within me. So I just make different choices and act a little differently, and I can bring those things into my life. The other than feeling is like this strong, so that's like the empowered side where I'm like, okay, cool, easy, I'm in, I'm on it. Then there's the opposite polarity of that, which is total disempowerment and like taking like being being like completely scared of that responsibility. Like, oh shit. And so then there's like this little I can feel this version of me that wants to just curl up on the couch in a little ball and just like do nothing and like doesn't want to wield that power, right? Because it's like, no, this is actually comfortable. I want to distract. I want to keep numbing. I want to just watch Netflix. I want to do nothing. I want to not take action. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts or advice to that person that's kind of in that disempowered place with this. Like, how can they begin to step into wielding that responsibility and stepping into that power? Because I think that's one of our biggest fears that a lot of people don't realize. And as we step up on this conscious journey, I've realized within myself is one of my biggest fears is fully stepping into my power to the point where actually that largely feels unknown. What does it actually feel like to step into your power? Because I've lived my whole life suppressing it. So this person that's been trapped in that is in this self-sabotage state of just saying, okay, so I'm in control. Well, I don't want that. I don't want to be. I want to stay here and play small. How can they step into that more powerfully?
Oh, I love it. And that question, like, if you're listening to this, I would just replay that question like 10 times because that's the first step is to practice understanding and remembering that consistently that that's going on within you of
Mhm.
like the choice where it's like I am empowered and that's exciting. And then there's this real part, this real aspect that's freaking out, that's like going nutty bananas. And so step one is to remember that the nutty banana freak out version of you isn't the true you. It's a very comfortable version of you who you may be used to listening to. So the whole journey of our life, if you're anything like Ben, anything like myself, the mandate, the instruction, the responsibility is to teach you. You get really crafty at hearing that voice, and that voice, if you're anything like me, that the voice of your disempowerment can sound different. It can sound really mean. I have had all of these that I'm about to say. Really mean. It can sound really seductive and like really sexy, and it'll flirt with you, and you're like, oh, another donut. Like it'll be like kind of like that voice, right? So you have to get you become the observer, which is why I said listen again to Ben's question. You become the observer of this, that what we just said. I think that's like step one of like observing, like, oh shit, I'm pulsating between really excited and scared. How do I show up when I'm scared? I eat a lot. I go start fights with my partner. I, overwork, getting really clear on that. And then the most important, which I'll opinionate that it may be the hardest for people right now, is that you have to actually make another decision.
Mhm.
So, for example, yesterday, and I am stepping into brand new, like next levels of leadership that's like you watch it on the conference and you're like, wow, that person's so confident, they're on the stage and like, this is what I want. And then you call it in and it's yours. And this true story in my life, this happened before magnetic manifesting. I cried like full, this is yesterday. I cried full body. The version of me who was still here, who feels so inadequate, who's like, you don't know anything. Sometimes she's really mean, sometimes she's really hurting, you know? And I could have, and I have in the past listened to her and been like, you're right, cancel the class, reschedule, whatever. And now the journey of my life is like, I'm gonna hold you. We'll cry as long as you want. And then right when it's time in the period before, we're gonna snap out of it and we're gonna serve the fuck out of these people.
Mm,
Right? Because that's the practice of being like the actual true nature of me, and that teaches my system that who I really am is the empowered one. Even
mm,
when the body's like, but smaller. This is you're so seen. And like, what if they ask you a question you don't know the answer? What if what? Okay, then and I'll be like, listen, that one I don't know.
mm,
Like it's that, and this is the path of walking it and embodying it. It's and what me and Ben talk about, staying in it, because your system will start to tell you things. And so a last plug I'll say before you close this is like, what really helped me so much with this was like community, mentorship. On the days where I'm like, am I even a leader? You know, like, who am I even? And they're just like, whoa, who are you? Reflecting back your higher self, doing so in a way that feels supported as you're learning how to hold yourself and as you're learning to stop. And I'm still catching where I'm playing things out. Like, oh, she's playing small here. Who's
mm,
that? Who is that? What's up? Right? Making it, and this might be a little bit more advanced, but making it now more of a game and
mm,
committing to showing up, even if it doesn't feel fun. Because
mm,
like it sounds like me and Ben are both in the journey where we're like we're in it. Like sometimes it feels like claws scratching, sometimes however it feels, different textures of it. We're here
mm,
to stay, to do whatever it takes to hold us, those versions that are like, I don't know. Yep. Okay, cool. I'm still going to do the class. We're about to get on the stage and maybe you're sick and you manifest an illness because you can still do it. Still show up so that your system, and I guarantee you will never forget it. Like the same way, this is a perfect like close, the same way that me and Ben, the last conversation, we're like, ooh, we're spooked about like masculine and feminine. And now our whole systems are like, okay, he's leading, I'm surrendering. He's
mm,
gonna check in on my feelings. I'm gonna just let him guide the way. Like our systems are just used to it now. And all of a sudden we're at that next level. So
mhm,
starting to see it as a game and to show up even when the disempowering stories and whatever voices they use want to gear you towards doing things to keep you small. It's a
mm,
perfect one.
mm. 100%. It's like you have to be able to zoom out and watch it, right? You have to like that in and of itself. The only reason that I'm able to be so consciously aware of this and you're able to and be able to really be that in it is because, well, first I spent all this time working on just building awareness, right? And giving the universe time to like bring that awareness into me, right? And surrendering to that process because it's easy to be like, oh, I get it now, right? I understand it. So let me just embody it like this. Well, actually, that embodiment in and of itself is not just necessarily an overnight thing. It's a journey of itself to go through this dynamic, the ups and the downs, and be able to consistently hold the intention of I'm growing through this. And I think it's important too, just something so subtle that you said, which was like you said something along the lines of that small stuff is coming out and it's scared and it's like, ooh, what's that? What's going on? Hey, right? And being more just like that playful energy towards it and this compassionate energy towards it rather than judging ourselves for it. And that's another thing that I found is as you build this awareness, you're so clear of what's happening, and then you watch yourself like falling into something, and then I'll beat myself up over it. I know better, right? What am I doing? All that and that in and of itself can be helpful. That can kind of light a fire under you, but at the same time, that lack of compassion is also bringing more of that because now the self-sabotaging mind, the ego in that is like, yes, we've got him. He's beating himself up. So he's now, I don't even have to do anything. He's just going to hold himself back. And it is that conscious choice to continue to just say, to notice it and then choose different. And even ahead of this call, we kind of started off was like, I went to bed a little bit late last night. I didn't sleep that great. And I kind of woke up and this morning, like ahead of it, I was like, man, don't quite feel like in my power. And I just noticed, I watched that voice say all those things. And I was just like, nope, we're making a different choice. We're choosing to step into who I actually am rather than let that voice get all noisy. And like we're ending this. And I don't know about how you feel inside, but inside me, I feel way more aligned. Like I feel like I'm ready to run through a wall after this and just go make shit happen, which is just incredible and shows that dynamic. And this feels like heart, right? Head's not even here. It's like my heart's calling me forward to do more. And I think as you continue that practice and you surround yourself with people that are talking about this, and so and it is a journey though. So, and just as a reminder for all the people listening to rap, is that the reason we're able to have this conversation is because we've been doing this work for a long time, right? And like the reason that we're in the place that we are is because of this journey. And like when I really zoom out, it's not about how I feel right now as much as it is about this journey that I've gone on. And I get to look back at all of this and say, wow, I've been showing up for myself for a long time. I've been going through the darkness. I fucked up. I've made mistakes. I felt horrible. I felt existentially just sad. I've cried. I've been angry, like all of that. And so we have this conversation, and it's so easy for people that are listening to get lost in the where they're at. Wow, they get all this stuff. This is all new to me. This was all new to me a while ago, too. This is all new to you. But you step intentionally on this journey, it is the greatest decision that you can make for yourself. So start living consciously and say, all right, whatever comes up, I'm going to do the work. And when things are difficult, I'm going to give myself compassion. And you're not always going to give yourself compassion. You're going to beat yourself up. That's okay too. Give yourself compassion for even just that. Um, so I think that gives a good wrap to tie a little bow in this conversation. I hope that people that are listening can step out and take something, right? Take the things that resonate from this conversation and throw away the things that don't. You're living your own life. You have your own power in you. All of the things that we've shared today are within you, 100%. There's one power, and you are an absolute gift. And if you can leave this conversation feeling just a little bit of that and bringing it into the world and helping one person feel a little bit of that in themselves, that's really what matters the most. So with that, Zoe, I will transfer the leadership over to you to wrap, as you do with your podcasts.
Mm, how amazing was this episode, you guys? How amazing with it. Always just the power of this container and the things that come through us and the way that we're so dedicated to just listening to each other, showing up for each other, and having this bigger cause for everybody who's tuning in, and the medicine, and just trusting that the medicine is coming through us for you, for whatever it is that you're navigating in your life. We love you. We really intend that you can feel it. I'm speaking on behalf of Ben. I really intend that you can feel it. I want to hear from you also, and I'm sure Ben does too. So I'm going to link Ben's socials in the show notes so you guys can follow him, reach out to him, reach out to me. Let us know what you think of this episode. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Like, we are here. We want to connect with you. We are on this journey. We're walking this path, and know that you're never alone. Know that I'm like beyond that message. It's like, you're magic. My message went from like, you're not alone to like, you're fucking magic. And so it's time to find the tribe to allow you to walk in it, right? To do it with safety, because this is you. This is why you're here. And if you're listening to this, you already know. It's just a matter of practicing remembering. So I'm going to give you the biggest hug on behalf of me and on the amazing Ben that is here joining us. Let us know what you think. Reach out to you. Thank you for joining me for another amazing episode of Expressions. Love you guys.